In 1906, Upton Sinclair, a journalist and novelist, published The Jungle, a groundbreaking work that exposed the appalling conditions in the American meatpacking industry. The novel, originally intended to shed light on the exploitation of immigrant workers, shocked the nation with its vivid depiction of unsanitary practices and led to sweeping reforms in food safety. This narrative explores the publication of The Jungle, the public outcry it sparked, and its lasting impact on American society and the regulation of the food industry.
Upton Sinclair was born on September 20, 1878, in Baltimore, Maryland, and grew up in a household marked by financial instability and social awareness. An early interest in writing and social justice led him to become a dedicated muckraker, a journalist committed to exposing corruption and social injustices. Sinclair was particularly concerned with the plight of working-class Americans, especially the immigrant laborers who toiled in dangerous and exploitative conditions in the nation's factories and industrial centers. In 1904, Sinclair was commissioned by the socialist newspaper Appeal to Reason to investigate the conditions of the meatpacking industry in Chicago, a major hub of the nation's food production. For 7 weeks, Sinclair lived among the city's immigrant workers, observing their lives and the conditions in which they worked. What he discovered was a world of unimaginable filth, corruption, and human suffering. Sinclair intended to write a novel that would expose the brutal exploitation of these workers and rally public support for labor reforms. However, what he ultimately revealed in The Jungle would have far-reaching consequences beyond his original goal.
Upon its release in February 1906, The Jungle quickly gained widespread attention. The novel follows the story of Jurgis Rutkus, a Lithuanian immigrant who arrives in Chicago with his family in search of the American dream. Instead, they find themselves trapped in a nightmarish world of poverty, corruption, and abuse, working in the city's sprawling meatpacking district. Sinclair's vivid descriptions of the conditions in the meatpacking plants were shocking. He detailed how diseased, rotten, and contaminated meat products were routinely processed and sold to the public. Workers, often sick and injured, were forced to handle meat in unsanitary conditions, with little regard for hygiene or safety. The novel also exposed the use of harmful chemicals and fillers in the production of meat products, posing serious health risks to consumers. While Sinclair had hoped to draw attention to the exploitation of workers, it was his exposure of the filthy and dangerous practices in the meatpacking industry that resonated most with readers. The American public was horrified by the idea that the food they were consuming could be so dangerously tainted. The outcry was immediate, and calls for government action to regulate the food industry grew louder by the day.
The publication of The Jungle set off a firestorm of public and political reaction. Newspapers across the country ran articles and editorials highlighting the novel's revelations, and readers inundated their representatives with demands for action. The book's impact was so profound that it reached the highest levels of government, catching the attention of President Theodore Roosevelt. Roosevelt, who had already shown a willingness to tackle corporate abuses, and was himself a proponent of progressive reforms, ordered an investigation into the meatpacking industry. He sent Labor Commissioner Charles P. Neal and social worker James Bronson Reynolds to inspect the meatpacking plants in Chicago. Their findings, which corroborated Sinclair's descriptions, were shocking and further fueled the push for reform. Roosevelt used the momentum generated by The Jungle to push Congress to pass new legislation aimed at cleaning up the food industry. The result was the passage of 2 landmark laws, the Meat Inspection Act and the Pure Food and Drug Act, both signed into law on June 30, 1906. The Meat Inspection Act required the Department of Agriculture to inspect all meat products and enforce standards of cleanliness in slaughterhouses and processing plants. The Pure Food and Drug Act prohibited the manufacture, sale, and transportation of adulterated or mislabeled food and drugs, laying the foundation for the modern Food and Drug Administration, FDA. These laws were among the first significant federal regulations of the food industry in the United States and marked a major victory for the progressive movement. They also represented a crucial shift in the role of government, establishing the principle that the state had a responsibility to protect public health and safety from corporate abuses.
The publication of The Jungle not only led to significant legislative reforms but also cemented Upton Sinclair's legacy as a muckraker who had a profound impact on American society. Although Sinclair famously remarked, "I aimed at the public's heart, and by accident, I hit it in the stomach," the broader implications of his work extended far beyond food safety. Sinclair's exposure of the harsh realities faced by immigrant workers contributed to the growing labor movement and the demand for better working conditions, wages, and rights. While the immediate reforms focused on the food industry, The Jungle also highlighted the need for broader social and economic justice, issues that would continue to shape American politics in the years to come. The legacy of The Jungle is evident in the continued efforts to regulate and oversee the safety and quality of food and drugs in the United States. The laws that followed its publication set the stage for further reforms in consumer protection, labor rights, and corporate accountability, and they remain a foundational part of the regulatory framework that governs the food industry today. Moreover, The Jungle is a testament to the power of literature to effect social change. Sinclair's novel not only informed and outraged the public but also mobilized them to demand reforms that would have a lasting impact on the nation.
The publication of Upton Sinclair's The Jungle in 1906 was a pivotal moment in American history, exposing the dark side of industrialization and sparking significant reforms in food safety and public health. Sinclair's work serves as a powerful reminder of the role that investigative journalism and literature can play in holding industries accountable and advocating for the rights and well-being of the public. As we reflect on the impact of The Jungle, we are reminded of the importance of vigilance, transparency, and regulation in protecting consumers and ensuring justice in the marketplace.